So, what exactly is going on with Music Entrepreneur HQ and the New Music Industry podcast in 2022? Will it be business as usual, or are there changes to come? That's what we're going to be looking at in this episode of the New Music Industry podcast.
You're listening to the New Music Industry with David Andrew Wiebe.
Hey, it's David Andrew Wiebe. So you may have noticed that we've been a little slow to update Music Entrepreneur HQ as of late. So I wanted to address this, and a lot of this is going to become clear as we go, but generally, this has a lot to do with the renewed efforts I've been putting into my music career, as well as my new guitar course, the Chord King Course program at chordkingcourse.com. In terms of music, what I'm working on right now is my album Back on Solid Ground. And this is the album. This is like the big Duke Nukem Forever unfinished project in my life. I guess there's two of those, but that's really the one that's oldest. It dates back to about 2008, 2009 that I have yet to complete. And so I finally just said, there's not going to be a perfect time. There's not going to be a perfect space to do it. It's really just now or never. And that's why I've started working on it in this quarter, and I'll continue working it on next quarter as well. It turns out it's a little ambitious to do this album in 3 months, but I think we should be pretty deep into it after 6 months. And as you know, my year-long leadership program is part of what has me engaging in these projects to begin with. But the leadership program in and of itself, as I've said before, is also expansive in its scope, velocity, and intensity. So I don't want to say it's necessarily intruding on the things that I want to do. I'm using it as a vehicle to get those things done, but there still are certain requirements and certain demands placed on me in terms of time, in terms of energy, resources, and to-do items that just get added to my day. So the leadership program has been great, and I'm going to continue to share insights with you as I have been all along as I discover great things for myself. But it's really just come to a head. It's come to a point where I realized, look, trying to do this, plus picking up more client work, plus working on music and everything else that's been going on right now isn't entirely sustainable. It's like I get it done, but sort of at the expense of life and the expense of, to an extent, health too, because I'm just exhausted. Another thing that's come to my attention too is, for a while I've been aware that Music Entrepreneur HQ's SEO needs to be improved, but constantly publishing new content doesn't give us a lot of space to do the overhaul we really need to do to maximize our results. As it stands right now, there's still a good amount of traffic coming to the site every day. It just seems like a lot of it is dead weight and people who bounce off and are not getting what they're looking for. And maybe this is just the curse of having a site that's so big and with so much stuff that actually kind of needs to be updated. But we're noticing that this doesn't drive results for us. And to that end, I'm looking for solutions, right? I don't want to stay in the problem. I don't want to marinate in the problem. But I also realize there's really a limit to my own personal time and energy right now. As I've already said, it's like I could take on SEO. I know enough, and I could pick up things as I go to be able to master it and bring Music Entrepreneur HQ to the point where it needs to be. But that's going to be a very slow going process if I personally take that on right now. So I created a new career page on the website at Music Entrepreneur HQ, and we're currently looking for an interim chief marketing officer, a CMO. This is not a full-time position, but rather a medium-term revenue share opportunity where the CMO will be paid a percentage of the business based on performance. It would be their responsibility to improve the site's SEO as well as copy. But if you happen to know anyone that's skilled in those two areas, that's looking for a 5 to 10 hour per week type commitment and doesn't mind working with me over the course of the next 2 or 3 years, do let me know. People know people, so I thought I would put that out there. But I've also heard from some of you that this is really just a tough time in general, and you're trying to figure out your finances. You may not have discretionary income to spend on courses and programs and books and things like that right now. And I can totally appreciate that, but there is an impact, right? There's going to be an impact on my end when sales are not what they could be or used to be or should be. So look, in the last few months, I've had to tighten the belt a bit too. So I totally know where you're coming from. I've had to cut some expenses, look for additional writing work I could take on, and generally begin to seek out opportunities that are a little less reliant on clients and their purchases and more predicated on engagement, views, time invested, and so forth. And that means stuff like Medium and YouTube and other opportunities where I can get paid on views. But most of that is still very much a thing of it takes time, it takes effort. You have to keep a long-term view of it. You don't get a lot of immediate rewards. And so you can see where, there's some challenges here. And I still think this is an excellent time to be an artist. It's not a bad time to be an artist at all. But I do understand the realities people are dealing with. Even with more opportunities than ever, it's basically brought me to this point of having to maybe switch things up a bit just based on where things are with artists and where things are with me. And the decision isn't to stop everything and give it up or otherwise walk away from what we've built up at the New Music Industry Podcast or Music Entrepreneur HQ. Like I say, I'm looking for solutions. I don't want to be sitting here marinating in the problem without really coming up with something that might be workable. So the goal is really just going to be to slow things down a bit, to get our messaging right, to optimize the website, and to fine-tune what's clearly not working for us right now. So I wanted to give you a sense of what to expect moving forward. As a podcast listener, I imagine the podcast is sort of your greatest concern. And what we'll be doing is we'll be moving to a monthly format for a while. It'll probably be for the rest of the year, but it all depends on participation, engagement, shares, and monetization. And there are some surprises coming with a new format. I have a new co-host that'll be joining me for each episode. So in that sense, I really expect it to be a lot more interactive and fun and really an easy space for everyone to get into the conversation. The blog is going to be a little bit sporadic in the immediate near future, but I do have multiple pieces to share with you this year. So I'm looking to set up at least one new post every 2 weeks once we get into the flow of things. As for the YouTube channel, I think you can still expect weekly updates, so that's a pretty good deal. Overall, I believe these will all be positive changes, but I wanted to make sure you were aware of these changes and also know where to follow us. And please do stick with the podcast. Don't unsubscribe. Actually, just sit there waiting on bated breath for the next episode, right? And then listen to it the moment it gets published. And just engage with all of it, soak in every word. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure that you knew where to follow us. We're trying to make it easier on you to follow Music Entrepreneur HQ. Personally, I'll still be experimenting a lot and posting everywhere, but with Music Entrepreneur HQ, we want to make sure you aren't confused and you can easily find what you're looking for in the format you want it in. So mainly keep an eye on the blog, on the YouTube channel, and on the podcast, but you can also check out our social media destinations for updates as well. So that's all I wanted to say about that. These are challenging times, but I want to be a source of encouragement in that these are great times to innovate. Historically, the best time for businesses, for entrepreneurs, even for artists, is when things are at their worst. This is the best time to innovate and create something new. The Unstarving Musician podcast, hosted by Robunzo, features interviews with independent music artists who share their experience and expertise on recording, touring, getting gigs, the creative process, marketing, and more. It's a podcast intended to help independent music artists better understand the marketing, business, and creative processes that empower us to do more of what we love, make music. Find it at unstarvingmusician.com and wherever you get your favorite audio. This has been episode 261 of the New Music Industry Podcast. I'm David Andrew Wiebe, and I look forward to seeing you on the stages of the world. Thank you for listening. Music in this episode was brought to you by Brian Young. Wherever you're listening to this right now, please consider leaving a 5-star review and comment to help us get the word out about the podcast.